My name is Shireen Tadros. I'm your moderator today. I'm the head of the New York office for Amnesty International and their representative at the UN. And I really think that today we all here have a collective opportunity to do two very important things. One is to highlight the issues that we're talking about here, whether it's gender parity, discrimination, promoting the women's game. As we're sitting here in the home of FIFA, amongst so many decision makers and players, it's really a very unique opportunity as a human rights advocate and wherever it is that you're sitting and speaking from. And secondly, it's really an opportunity to take stock of the reforms that FIFA has started to implement since last year, to hold FIFA accountable for those. What are the gaps? What has gone right and wrong? I know it's early stages, but this is a great forum to look and to sort of start to analyze those reforms and what's been happening. So I really hope that I have all of your attention, your engagement. If you're watching back home on YouTube or streaming it live on Facebook Live, please do also engage with us. Your issues, your concerns, your problems, please try and keep it to the actual topic. But anything you want to tell us, hashtag FIFA for Equality, or you can also use my Twitter account @ShireenT and ask your questions. So I'm really hoping that throughout the course of the day, this is less about a talk shop and more about a workshop. And on that note, I will stop talking. You'll hear from me a lot throughout the course of the day. And I'll just introduce Thaljieh, who is the Corporate Communications Manager for FIFA and the person who's behind these conferences and who has brought us all together today. So welcome, Hani.
FIFA has the most unbelievable opportunity. This is their moment of truth to do something extraordinary. And that is to change the culture of FIFA. And that will help the world be a better place. Instead of for the game, for the world, I put for the game, for the girls, for the world.
The conference room here today has been really full of positive energy, full of goodwill, full of good intentions. And I take this all with me in order to focus in the future as well on making this conference not only a one-off event, but the start of a development which we all want to see to increase women in football and women's football game.
We don't want to be known as that annoying little sister. We want to be heard and be valued in the very same way that men are heard and valued, because women's football is here to stay. I'm excited to see where it goes, but now that with this reform package, knowing that women will be fighting battles for us women playing, can't wait. It's going to be amazing.
Good morning, everyone. This is just a recap video from last year, so I hope that this year it's going to be interesting and you will enjoy. So it's great to see you all here with us. We wished for a better weather, but it doesn't matter because all of you here are the sunshine, actually. So dear guests, welcome to the FIFA Conference for Equality and Inclusion. Sometimes such terms as equality and inclusion might seem abstract and sometimes even theoretical. But to many people around the world, it is their reality. It is their daily lives and their constant struggles. While discrimination remains, unfortunately, part of our reality today, football has the potential to unite and to empower, to set a role model to the rest of the society. 3 years ago, when the world was honoring International Women's Day on March 8, we took a humble initiative at FIFA to be part of this global event. And the FIFA Annual Conference for Equality was born. The first edition of the FIFA Annual Conference in 2015 was designed to address women's football and women in leadership governance. In 2016, The conference focused on equality through reforms and honored the FIFA reforms approved at the Extraordinary Congress in February 2016. And this brings us to today, here and now, in 2017, at a time when the world at large and the game of football still encounter inequalities and exclusion. This conference represents our pledge that football is for everyone. This year, the third edition of the FIFA conference seeks to bring the conversation into practice with a focus on tangible considerations and steps. This year's theme is making equality a reality. This initiative makes a commitment to open dialogue and ensuing actions. We are here to listen, to share, and to learn, to highlight our message of gender equality, inclusion, and diversity in football and beyond. And to do this, we are very pleased and honored to have an impressive lineup of speakers, of experts, and diverse voices. They come from football, sports, and the wider society. They traveled from all around the world to share their insights with us. We look forward to enriching conversations and lasting impacts. Again, thank you everyone for joining us and welcome. So ladies and gentlemen, it is time to make equality a reality. It is time to make equality a reality. Enjoy today. Thank you.
Annie, thank you so much, and it's my great pleasure to introduce FIFA President Gianni Infantino.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome here to Zurich, welcome to the home of FIFA here today for this conference. Somebody should tell me when it doesn't, when I'm not looking perfect. I saw that last year I didn't have a tie. Normally I never wear or rarely wear tie except in official occasions. This morning I have chosen to wear one. But just let me say how happy I am to be here this morning together with you. The lineup is indeed impressive, the lineup of speakers, of experts, but also of all of you wanting to contribute to equality and inclusion, to FIFA's messages, and to bringing this organization, world football, and society more generally in the world a little bit ahead with our little contribution. Hani was absolutely right when she said the sun is shining here, the sun is shining in this room. I can absolutely confirm that, and I'm sure you will spend a great day here in our company. Last year, when we had this conference, it was, I think, actually the first event that I had to address for a welcome in my quality as FIFA president. It was kind of 1 week after my election, and since then, of course, 12 months have passed. A lot has happened, and you know, we try to do a few things. International Women's Day is in 2 days. At FIFA, we always want to be ahead of times. That's why we organize the conference 2 days ahead, so we are ready for that. But besides, of course, of this, I think we've done a couple of things, because it is important to not only speak about equality and inclusion, but actually to live it. We have to be realistic, but we have to be ambitious as well. And then we have to put actions behind words, because everyone is good, or many are good at talking. And it's always nice to talk, and we thank you already for any input you give us today, any criticism, any praise, any whatever you want. We are there to take it and to learn and to move ahead. But I like the tagline of today, bring equality to reality, you know? Or make equality a reality. And this is exactly what we've been trying to do in the last 12 months. Of course, with the reforms that FIFA needed so badly, good governance, transparency, and so on and so forth. Of course, with the focus on football development, the World Cup, and so on. But also with the focus on equality and inclusion, because it is important for an organization which says that it wants to be the world governing body of football, so a worldwide organization. Well, for such an organization, we have to show with concrete facts that this is what we really mean and what we want to do. And therefore, as you know, in the reforms, for example, which were approved, the FIFA Council is now composed of 6 women instead of 1, as it was the case beforehand. In addition to that, and for the first time in the 112 years of history of FIFA, we appointed a General Secretary, Fatma, who is here with us, who for the first time is not a man and is not coming from 2 countries or 3 countries in Western Europe. Fatma is coming from beautiful Senegal, but has been working throughout Africa, and not only, also in Asia and in Europe, and in many parts of the world, in the UN. And it's important to have the right persons with the right credentials at the right place. And for this reason as well, not only she's occupying the highest position in the FIFA administration, but we have as well 2 more ladies, here on my left, Joyce, and on my right, Sarai, who have been hired by Fatma to chair or to head 2 very important divisions, Member Association Division and Women's Football Division, so from England and from Oceania, far away. And we are here to continue on this trend, of course, and therefore today in the management of FIFA, in the management board of FIFA, under the chair of Fatma, there are, or together with Fatma, 3 ladies compared to 0 until now. I give you just one other example, or 2 other examples. Well, the percentage of women in the FIFA administration, 42%. We're not yet at 50, but we are working. Then the FIFA committees. As part of the reforms, actually, we have decided in FIFA to reduce the number of committees. In the past, FIFA had 26 committees, and now FIFA has only 9 committees. Obviously, the priority, so to say, to sit in committees are for member association presidents, and there are only 2 associations today who have a lady as a president out of 211. In spite of that, in spite of the reduction of members from around 500 to 150, in the committees of FIFA today, there are around 20% women compared to 4.7% in the past, except, of course, for the Women's Football Committee. So in spite of a reduction, we have increased the participation of ladies in our committees. Is it enough? No, of course it's not enough. Of course it's not enough. We have to do more, we have to work, we have to act, we have to listen, we have to improve, we have to be ambitious, we have to be realistic. We know that you cannot change everything in a very, very short period of time, but I'm sure that with your help, with your contribution, with your assistance, we can do much better, and we have to do much better, and we are working in this direction. At the end of the day, it's about having the right persons in the right places, be it in committees, in the council, in the administration, in the management board. We need to have the right persons in the right places, and we have to make sure that we find these right persons wherever they are in the world, because FIFA is a worldwide organization, and whatever their gender is as well. We need to have the right person at the right place, and only like this FIFA can be a top organization as it is in our ambition. So I wish you a very fruitful day, a beautiful day, a productive day. Feel free to express whatever is on your heart and tell us how we can do to improve. Thank you very much. Enjoy the day.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. President. Well, you heard it from the boss. He wants to hear criticisms and suggestions from you. I guarantee you this is... But it doesn't happen every day, so let's use this opportunity. And on that note, it's really a great honor to introduce our keynote speaker today, Lakshmi Puri. She's the Deputy Executive of UN Women and hasn't just been a champion of women's rights for decades, but also involved in negotiations of some seminal human rights conventions, including the Conventions Against Torture, on the Rights of the Child, and the Declaration on the Right to Development. She has been instrumental in UN Women's successes in prioritizing gender equality and the empowerment of women in key intergovernmental outcomes. Welcome, Lakshmi.
Good morning. It's such a privilege to be here at this third conference on making a strong connection between an unbreakable connection between football and gender equality, which is so vital. And thank you, President Infantino, for inviting us to speak from the heart. And you can count on UN Women to do that all the time. Thank you also, Madame Fatma Samoura, FIFA Secretary General, the first ever woman Secretary General, for leading this file as much as you are leading the endeavors of the whole organization. And of course, with pride, I say that you are part of the UN as well. You've been part of the UN as well. And Sarai, head of women's football, also greetings to you and look forward to strengthening and finalizing, in fact, our pact going forward soonest. Thank you very much, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, for your commitment to this cause of feminizing football and engendering it. And these are two concepts I want to leave with you, and I will explain as I go forward. Also, you are celebrating the International Women's Day. 2 days ahead of time, but that's fine. What we are pledging today requires us to work for women's human rights, not just once a year, once a month, or once a day, but every moment that we live. That's the pledge of the International Women's Day. So that each of our actions ignite change with everyone around us every moment. I want to say that conferences like this and what they generate in terms of follow-up action are making her story in football. And we are excited to be part of the new journey FIFA is embarking on and which President has set out FIFA 2.0, the vision of the future. And it provides a vision for what FIFA aspires and intends to be once and for all. A more inclusive, gender equal federation empowering all women and girls in its reach, which is immense. I applaud President Infantino's decision to embrace diversity and believe in gender equality and women's human rights as a core value, and of this very influential world organization. And you have set out the recent appointments that point to that, and also they are not just symbolic, they mark significant progress. So we applaud that. You have recognized Ms. Samura's ability to build and lead teams and improve the way the international organization performs, and with your championship, you have embraced diversity and gender equality in the sports world and inspired other male-dominated sports organizations who we hope will take inspiration. I want to say a few words about UN Women as partner for gender equal football. UN Women was created in 2010 to galvanize international efforts towards gender equality and women's empowerment and women's human rights at the global, regional, national, and local levels. Through our presence in more than 90 countries around the world, we seek to advance women's political participation and leadership at all levels, in all sectors of decision-making, to expand women's economic empowerment and opportunities, mobilize to end violence against women everywhere, and to increase women's participation in peace building, to make sure that budget and plans, including of organizations like FIFA, work for women and target and prioritize women, and we are resolved to deliver for all women and girls and to transform their lives. We do that by driving international standards and commitments to gender equality in every sector, by being a knowledge and practice hub, as well as a global advocate and convener of all stakeholders, heads of state, CEOs, academics, civil society, everyone. And by leveraging strategic partnerships with intergovernmental organizations like this, and private sector, by coordinating the UN system and its accountability to gender equality, and by working in the field, in communities. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by the General Assembly, it was very, it's a wonderful coincidence. I hope it was not just a coincidence and you planned it, that you had your first conference in 2015, because that's when Agenda 2030 was adopted, along with a historic gender equality compact to put gender equality at the heart of sustainable development, both as a precondition and as an objective. And SDG 5, which we say high five, is indeed about achieving, not just promoting, gender equality and empowering all women and girls everywhere. So that goal should also be the driving vision and part of your vision, and I'm sure it is and its 6 targets, 3 means of implementation should be really driving your transformation and reform as well. And of course, our strategy is at one level to transform laws, policies, and measures that governments take, and special measures that they need to take. But it's also about movement building. And what you're trying to do here is do both. You're trying to change policies, and we will need to also work with governments on the ground. And it's also about movement building with partnership with key change makers, men and boys, youth, faith. There are so many constituencies that need to be brought together, and I know many of you represent those constituencies. And the media. The media has a big role to play, and we have programs to influence women's participation and leadership in the media, which is very important, and I know sports media has its own niche, but also media in general build stereotypes, and they can also help demolish them. And also engender the content of that. FIFA's Forward program for gender equality. We are very pleased to be partnering with FIFA at this time when its commitment to diversity has been demonstrably impactful. The existing FIFA Forward program, with increased financial support to federations and their work with women, has already contributed to empowering women's football, for example, in Colombia. I've been there and seen where the first professional national women's league started in February. The Female Leadership Development Program, the Live Your Goals campaign, the age group competitions, and this conference itself are all steps in the right direction. It is rightly said that the greatest game to be won is one within. And FIFA is taking this to heart by reinventing itself to win the gender equality game. The implementation of the FIFA reforms is an unprecedented opportunity to make football an equal and inclusive sport at every level and beyond, that use the power of football to create a wider gender equal world. The foundation of gender inclusiveness has been laid through the Reform Committee report, which was referred to, and by revising the FIFA statute, which now recognizes women's football as a sunrise and growth area in an unprecedented way. The newly established quota on the FIFA Council, which was also referred to, is commendable, and I hope just the beginning. The full implementation of the reform is key to operationalize the policies and create transformational growth, but this won't happen organically. The strategy that is currently under development is critical to realize the enormous promise that women's football offers to the organization and to the game. There also needs to be change management exercise to create a shift in culture. Culture is critical. And this ensures that the culture of the organization does not tolerate misogyny, sexism, or violence or discrimination against women. The her story of football, you all know. Women have been playing soccer since the 1890s, but it took a long time to grow to this point as it is today. And now, with FIFA's recent appointment of 3 women in senior management, there is new impetus to engendering and feminizing football, and the sport continues to rise in popularity. This is, having said all these positive things, let us recognize that there is a continuing deficit in terms of fair play, and it is not smart business. Not only women widen perspectives and they bring new ideas and innovation, they reach new audiences and are a powerful market force. So football is depriving itself of these benefits by not engendering and feminizing enough. So these numbers, the fact that even in companies, women's participation brings huge dividends. Football as a sport, as a profession, as an industry and economic sector must pay heed and evolve for the sake of fair play, but equally in the interest of the game itself. Next week, and that's why I'm making this quick turnaround torsion trip, I call it, because I arrived just now and I'm leaving in the afternoon, is that we are going to be having the Commission on Status of Women starting Monday, next Monday. And the theme of the Commission is Women's Economic Empowerment in the Changing World of Work. And this theme has very much implication for football and women's economic empowerment through football. More broadly about sports, because football is in the larger universe of sports. And we strongly emphasize that sport is probably the industry with the largest gender gap. Gender gap in pay overall, but also in pay. And with the tennis being, Billie Jean King was there, and tennis being one of the main exceptions, the pay gap is massive, especially for professional athletes. And the Commission will be addressing this, and we have an equal pay initiative and a campaign, and I hope you will also advocate for that. I'm calling on all sports federations to invest in the women's game and take concrete steps towards closing the gender pay gap until women and men are on an equal playing field. All stakeholders must come together to rouse the aspirations and dreams of girls and women players to the height of what they can be and release their energies so that they reach there. Governments, UN system, civil society, the sports movement, and other actors must and have now started coming together around the recognition of how much sport can contribute to the social, economic, and political empowerment of women and girls. UN Women and FIFA have come together too on a mission to make football work for women and girls' empowerment. And sports is indeed a miracle for gender equality. It should not be underestimated. By empowering women in and through sports, role models are being created. And young women and girls are given a chance to see their potential. But one does not need to look at the highest levels of sports to see the benefits of sport changing stereotypes and women's empowerment and leadership. Sports programs, and I want to emphasize this, at the grassroots level and in marginalized, impoverished communities and in areas which really qualify in the context of Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development as being about leaving no one behind and reaching the farthest first. That kind of approach is also really fundamental. And it really reduces restrictions on mobility, social isolation, and through sports, women and girls find safe places to gather, build new interpersonal networks, develop a sense of identity and achievement, and pursue new opportunity. Participation in sport enables women and girls to enjoy freedom of expression and movement and increases their self-esteem and confidence. The connection between participation in sport and academic success is increasingly recognized. So, sport also empowers women economically, as I've already said, and it's a vehicle for improving women and girls' leadership roles. They become trained to exercise leadership in the larger context of society. I also want to particularly mention and recognize our partnerships that we have had with IOC. UN Women and IOC, along with our partner Women Win, kicked off the joint Olympic legacy program, One Win Leads to Another, in disadvantaged areas of Rio de Janeiro. And then we have with us, we are very proud of our strong partnership with the Valencia Club, the football, who carry the UN Women logo on their jerseys and promote gender equality in the stadium during continental games and contribute financially to UN Women's work. And we hold joint workshops around the world to train development practitioners and coaches on the use of football as a tool for development and empowerment. We are also working for many years with the Georgian Rugby Union and with male rugby players being trained in delivering powerful messages on ending gender-based violence and sportsmen talk with boys. I know there are some men and boys advocates here, are held in schools and at games. Ladies and gentlemen, Mia Hamm, two-time Olympic gold medalist and FIFA Women's World Cup winner, once said, "My coach said I ran like a girl. I said if he could run a little faster, he could too." Paraphrasing Mia, if gender equality could be made to run faster, much, much faster, society, economy, and governance could too. FIFA has the chance to become a beacon in the world by creating equal opportunities for women and men through sport. We stand ready as UN Women to support this and to ensure that whatever is done is sustained and has lasting impact in creating universal, comprehensive, and transformative change in women and girls' lives through legacy programs in countries and in changing cultural norms through joint global advocacy efforts. We are determined to work together with them and with all of you as one team to play all out, all game, all season for making women and girls win, and in turn for making football win. A gender-equal world of sport as game and as work is our conviction and passion, and by no means will this tournament be easy. Yet, as this gathering of champions, and all of you are champions, will no doubt signal by coming together and staying the course, we will make progress. And by playing like the football 11, together as one heartbeat, on all fronts, we will reach our Planet 50-50 destination in football and sports by 2030 and leave no woman or girl behind. I thank you.
Lakshmi, thank you for setting the stage so wonderfully for our first and opening panel, Progressing Towards Gender Equality. We're going to get straight to it. And as I announce the names, please come and take your seats on the podium. Our first panelist, Sarai Bareman, is the Chief Women's Football Officer at FIFA. She heads up the newly created Women's Division and is part of FIFA's management board. Sarai has a finance and football administration background. She also has a real passion for football and was the only female member of FIFA's 2016 Reform Committee and a strong advocate for gender parity. Dr. Susan Bridgewater is the director of the Center for Sports Business at the University of Liverpool, as well as producing football manager statistics and other technical reports for the League Managers Association. Sue is a member of UEFA's Research Grants and Awards and produced much research. She's been widely published in the business of sports. Sylvie Durrer is the director of the Swiss Federal Office for Gender Equality, and someone who really is a real and practical, in-depth thinker when it comes to gender issues and public policy on equal rights. Khalida Popal is the former captain of the Afghan women's football team. She became notorious for her passionate advocacy on behalf of other women in Afghanistan who could not speak out. She has faced death threats, violence, depression as a result of her decision to keep playing and confronting critics back home who said that football is not the place for a woman. Khalida made a daring underground escape to Europe, fearing for her safety. She's not only been instrumental, I think, in transforming the way that football was viewed by the Afghan population, but also highly influential in enabling the sport to be used as a tool of empowerment for women across the country. And lastly, Piara Powar. He's the executive director of FIFA partner Football Against Racism in Europe, or the FAIR network. Created in 1999, FAIR was set up to counter discrimination in the European football game. Thank you so much, all of you, for being with us. Susan, I'm going to kick off right with you because, one of the real things that we need to get out there today is breaking down this concept of gender disparity and what it will look like to actually progress towards a real sort of situation where you have gender equality in sports and particularly in football.
So I was just going to show a couple of slides, if that's okay.
Of course.
And of course, you do realise you should never give an academic a PowerPoint set of slides. But I do promise that I will be brief. So I just want to start by putting this a little bit into context because I think it's going to be important for us as we get into our debates to understand, and obviously others will have stats from Switzerland and from other countries, that there is still a fairly significant gender pay gap, not just in football, but across all sectors. And in the UK, it's about 18%. In the USA, it's about 20%. But to understand it in real terms, that's like saying 1 day a week women work for nothing compared with their male colleagues. So it is a fairly significant difference that we have there. And there's not any real evidence across the board that that pay gap is going down. It's going down at the junior end of the scale, but it's certainly not going down at the higher qualified end of the scale. Men are more likely to be promoted. The thing is that this is actually having an impact on effectiveness, full stop. There's a growing body of research that says diversity is a good thing, diverse boards make better decisions, and so on. So this is really not somewhere that we want to be. But it's a fairly stubborn problem, and we're looking at various ways to address that. One thing that is particularly concerning here is that this seems to be to get worse as women have children. Obviously, the gap seems to get larger because sometimes they have other concerns in their life or reasons why it becomes more difficult to rise up the career ranks. It does seem to get worse. The gap goes to about 33% after women have children, which is quite a scary statistic. One of the big debates that we're having is whether in fact it really is just about having a glass ceiling, that there are barriers that people are trying to get through, or whether in fact it's more of a sticky floor, that there are things that women are trying to juggle with in their lives, children, carers, whatever else it is, that makes women less likely to choose or to be able to go through those ranks to senior positions. I've had great pleasure. I count myself as a woman in football, even though really to most of you I look like I'm on the outside, but I have worked in various types of education and research, as we were saying there, over 15 years, and had the great pleasure to work with Women in Football, which is a fantastic networking organisation, predominantly in the UK, but has members around the world. And every couple of years we're doing research to try to take, to create a baseline and then to look at where we're moving from that baseline in football. And we took some research last year in 2016 that we had over 500 respondents from across football, women football players and coaches, but also people in boardrooms, lawyers, doctors, governing bodies, clubs, and so on. And I just wanted to show you a few stats that are football specific, and I promise I really won't be long. That there were within that a number of people who were saying, and these are quite small numbers, but people saying that they were, felt that their opportunities were reduced since they had children, and really backing up some of those things that we've seen. More scarily still, that when we went through this research, the bullying scores, the number of people who had either experienced in this case, so personally experienced sexism, sexist banter or jokes, derogatory statements based on their ability because of gender, are quite high, as you can see there, the sexist banter and jokes particularly. It's actually those kinds of statistics that we need to be aware of. But I just wanted to, if you like, show the opposite side of the coin and say, amongst the fact that there was awareness and there was concern at some of those things, that there was also a very positive impression of the future and what was possible, and the people who we were talking to were generally optimistic. Some of them did say they felt that they needed to be better than their male colleagues. Back to Mia Hamm running faster. We need to run fast to be accepted and acknowledged, or we perceive that we need to run faster almost to be recognized for what we do, and that maybe more can still be done, but then also that we are, at probably still a reasonably early stage. Some of these things are kicking off, and we're looking to see what will happen, because the general belief is there's quite a lot of people agreeing, a few strongly agreeing, that we are actually getting more opportunities and that these things are improving. So apologies, and I really don't want to go on too long, but just to set the scene and to start us off.
Very disciplined use of
Yes.
Really interesting statistics there, and I want to get to the question of equal play with you, Sylvie, in a moment, because I know that you have such experience tackling that from a state level and perhaps have advice for how to do it for FIFA. But I want to give Sarai, you an opportunity first to tell us what kind of reforms FIFA has started to implement, and give us a real honest assessment at this early stage even, what the gaps are and what help and support you still need.
Sure. Firstly, I just want to say hi to Mum and Dad who are watching from home in New Zealand, and also to everyone that are watching online. Good morning or good evening. I think Since I've come on board, a lot has been done internally within FIFA and also across the globe within football with respect to the reforms in empowering women and increasing the resource for women's football development. There's still a long way to go, but as mentioned by our president earlier, there are a lot of steps that have been made. The division that I head has been created. I also sit as a member of the senior management board who make key decisions about the organisation itself. We are working on a strategy for women's football at the moment, and one of the key pillars within that strategy is governance and leadership. And I think the most important part of governance and leadership in women's football is to ensure that the reforms are implemented right throughout the structures of football. And I think for my division and for FIFA as an organisation, this will be our biggest challenge. We can do a lot at our level, and we are, but making sure that it is also implemented down through our confederations and the member countries of FIFA around the world, I think that will be our biggest challenge, but it's one that we're certainly looking to address.
Do you feel that you have the support from the top to be implementing the reforms that you have? It's a very ambitious project that you have on your plate.
It is. Absolutely, yeah. I'm very pleased to say that the President was a member of the Reform Committee, which I sat in as the only female, and he was certainly one of the men in the room that stood by me every time I spoke regarding the women's empowerment and gender equality in FIFA. And Fatma, of course, is a huge supporter of what we're trying to do in the gender equality space. So there is definitely a will from the top level to make some concrete actions.
Okay, I mean, we're going to talk about that further. I know it's difficult when you're in front of your bosses to talk about your bosses, but we're going to... But as he's told us that we have free reign over here to say what we want. Yeah, exactly. Direct accountability. Sylvie, I want to turn to you because you're not someone who's worked with FIFA, but you're someone who's worked on these very same issues that FIFA are facing, but on a public policy level. So what advice would you have for the organization?
Exactly. So thank you for the invitation, and thank you, FIFA. I think it's a wonderful initiative, and it's very important that we talk about figures. So we had some figures a few minutes ago, and we know worldwide with the last UN report, we have about 23% wage gap worldwide. So in all countries, in all sectors, it's a very important issue, and I think in the sports sector, it should be an important issue. There might be quite legitimate issues concerning the revenue and compensation ratio among the men's and women's soccer teams. What can the FIFA and all national organizations do? Well, further, FIFA is an employer, and all national organizations are employers. Then you are also policymakers. You're also buyers of infrastructures, goods, and services. And you are role models. So I think as such, you can do a lot and you should do a lot. So as an employer, what can you do? You can make sure that you respect the equal pay. But you have to make the analysis in a very proper manner. And I will just say a few words a little later on. We have developed a tool which should help you to do so. As a policymaker, what can you do? You can make sure that equal pay will be respected among your members. As a buyer of infrastructures, goods, and services, you could ask all your contractors to respect equal pay and to eventually prove that they do it. And as a role model, naturally, you have to let the wider public know about it so you can start a positive dynamic. It's really your responsibility to avoid that women have to go to court in order to get their rights recognized. So what do we do on the state level? First, we have developed a tool which is pretty well, which is well regarded at the international level. It's a tool which is called Logib, L-O-G-I-B. You can just go on internet, you can download it. It's free of charge. You can make an analysis if you work in a company with more than 150 employees, and I think it's a case of the FIFA here in Switzerland, so I would recommend you that you make the analysis in order to be sure that gender pay gap is respected. When we make analysis, because we make analysis and controls in the context of public procurement, we observe that half of the companies respect the law, and it's a good result. But half of them have problems, and so they have to find a solution and to correct the situation. Most of the time, it's women who don't get the right salary they should have, and they have to correct it in order to get the public procurement of our state. And we are really launching a charter at the national level with our Federal Council in order to make all public authorities really make sure that they don't give contracts to companies which don't respect gender pay equality. So it's what I wanted to just to say as a few words at the beginning, that you have different possibilities to handle the issue and to make a difference and to let it know about it.
And Sylvie, when it comes to equal pay, it's a particularly tricky one, isn't it, for an organization like FIFA, where there isn't parity even within men's football when it comes to pay. And you have some that are on ridiculous salaries and some that perhaps are working just as hard and on merit basis are earning much less. So how do you tackle parity or equal pay between gender when you have a problem even within the gender?
So when you tackle parity in general, then very often it brings other issues, and then you see that you have a general problem, and it's going to bring more equality in general. It's what's so interesting with gender equality, that at the end you have more equality in general, because most people don't make it in a purpose way, but they don't take this issue very seriously. And I think we have all interest that we have more gender equality, because at the end, we have more equality in general. And I'm not saying that all people should have the same salary. You can have very objective reasons why you don't have the same salary. It's really about getting the same salary for work of equal value. And so we have to make very proper analysis in order to see what is the value of the work. So you have really scientific criterion, and then you have to have really a pay policy which sticks to it and which is not biased by gender stereotypes. And the gender stereotypes are the strongest stereotypes we see in gender policies.
Yeah, I mean, I like that you sort of ended where we wanted to pick up with you, because, Khalida, you're someone who, I guess, experienced on a very practical level any sort of discrimination or sort of gender stereotyping. Tell us about your experiences and where you think that either FIFA or football organizations supported you or let you down.
Thank you so much for a great question. First of all, I want to congratulate every woman in this room for their achievements. Remember, every day is our day, not 8th of March. So happy Women's Day. And I would like to stand, actually. I don't like to sit. So actually, today is my day to talk. I waited so many years to come here and talk. Today I'm in a house where they changed, with one decision, they changed my life. I'm one of the women that started playing football in the history of a country where women has no value or had no value. It's because of war. The women was shot dead in penalty area in my country. It was the area and the place I start kicking the ball. We made history, and it is not easy for people to make the history. They have to sacrifice their life. They have to go through many problems, many challenges, and I did, with my players, with the players, with my teammates, with women, with men who supported. We started in 2004, the football in our country for the first time. I started as a teenager, just having fun, playing football, I didn't think about football as a gender equality, football as empowerment. I didn't thought about these things. But what changed the idea or thought when first time we got attacked by people. When they told us that women is not for football or football is not for women. It's insult for the game if women kick the ball. They took the ball and they destroyed. And there we have changed our decision to play football for equality and to play football for our own right. To get that ball back and say women has right to play football. It's not said in religion that football is not for women, and there is no rules says that women cannot play football. We faced so many problems because we wanted to change not only the name, we wanted to change the culture. For a woman, playing football is not easy as it's for men. Men take the ball and just play football. But for women, they have to fight with their family. They have to argue with everyone, even with women, that women can play football. We did it. We came together as a group, we fought, and we knew that we will change it. We did a lot of campaigns. We didn't know that actually will be official, or our team will be official, or they will actually register our team in the country that the women, Afghanistan has also women's team. But what changed is the FIFA decision. That budget that FIFA gives to every football association for women's. They decided, if I'm wrong, correct me. They decided they will give the budget for women's if there is women's football or women's football players in the country. Otherwise, they will not give that budget. And that was the time that FIFA's decision help our team. We went to Football Association because of that budget, and they registered our team for the first time in the history of our country. We changed, and we made the national team of Afghanistan. We fought for everything in our country, in a country that there is bomb explosion every single day. Many times we faced those problems, death threats. So many gender discrimination, problems, threats. So many women are sacrificing because they play football. It is not easy. We don't play football in Afghanistan for just playing as a game. We play to change the situation of women in our country, to have our voice. I use football as a tool to raise my voice, and I used media to send out the message that we are women. We are existing in a country where half of the population is women. You cannot develop a country without women. This is our issues, and that's why we are playing football to tell the people, our country, outside the authorities, that take us serious. We are women. We are human. And the decision and the support from FIFA and the pressure that FIFA put on the Football Association, they recognized our team. We went to international games, a bigger platform. We talked about our issues, our problems. As a leader, as a first woman who changed the history of the Football Association in our country, for the first time as a first employee in a country in Football Association, I started working because I wanted to change the face or the picture of the association where always it was man. And I'm happy to see you here. Because I say to myself, if I am the first one to open that door, I know that behind me there are so many women, and they will get this opportunity. It doesn't matter what it takes me, but I will open that door. I face so many problems, but I opened that door, and today there are so many women are working in Afghanistan Football Association. Today, Afghanistan, thank you. Today, Afghanistan has more than 2,000 women playing football. Yes, that budget is not enough. And sometimes that budget, it goes for man, but it's okay, we understand it. I travel around the world and I beg money. I don't call it as a fundraising campaign. I say as a begging money. I go and give lectures and say, hey guys, please give us $10 for the national team of Afghanistan. And they say, where is FIFA? What is FIFA doing? Oh, don't talk about FIFA. We are not here to talk about it. Yes, we are begging money because the donor says, it's not worth it to pay on women's football. Oh, it's not worth it. So we have to beg money for every event that we go and we participate. I faced death threats. My family faced a lot of problems because of my voice, because of the women who wanted to bring change. Yes, we brought the change. I had to leave my country, but I didn't forget my goals. Today, Afghanistan women's national team has staff or has the coaches that they are working as a volunteer. They are American coaches. They are working as a volunteer. We come together in a third country. We bring the girls from Afghanistan and we empower also refugee women, the women like me who forced to leave their country. We get our money. We get the money for the camp from people, from local people, because we don't have money for women's football. What I want to say that one decision can change their lives, but one decision can also destroy. Those women who face death threats, who really work hard, who risk their life to bring the change, one decision can make big difference. One decision can help me, did help me, and the other decision can also destroy. And I want to say that what is that decision? When FIFA banned an FA, all the work that we've done, suddenly it destroys. Because today, like Pakistan Football Association was banned. And the women in Pakistan, they also faced problems like us, who made the national team, the Iraq. And whatever men do, and end up corruption, the women also face problem. If you ban the football association, women also face problems. So please think about it. Please think about it. Don't destroy us because men do corruption and then you stop me. Is that fair? I save my life, I risk my life and then you just ban me? Come on, man. If you don't help me, at least don't.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. But what is my dream? Thank you so much. Just one thing. I'm sorry.
Oh, she's not
just
finished.
One thing, just because you said, just tell us. So you give us permission.
Exactly.
So I want to say that my dream is to see women president in FIFA.
Thank you so much for that, for sharing that story, and also just for being so frank and honest. It's not so easy on a platform like this. So thank you, Khalida. I'm sure, like me, you all have questions for Khalida. So rest assured, there'll be time at the end for those, and for perhaps Mr. President, you want to also to respond to her. But I'm just going to turn to our final panelist because Piara, we're not just talking about we're talking about different forms of discrimination, and it's not just about gender. And you've spoken in the past about the role of FAIR, your organization, in observing games and then reporting red flags, if you like, to FIFA's disciplinary system. How seriously, I'm wondering, is that taken by FIFA? And I'm not just talking about documenting forms of racism or discriminating, but how good are they at actually sanctioning countries after that?
Thanks. After that, you have to talk about the dry system of monitoring matches, right?
Yes, it was a hard act to follow.
I think, look, there's a lot at play here. I think this is a big issue, right? Some of our work is inside stadiums, some of it is outside. Inside stadiums, we see misogyny, homophobia, the two are linked at play all the time. And I think those are the things also that then contribute to the environment where women are not allowed to emerge. Sexism is a part of this, and we have to recognize that. I don't think we can just talk about the dilemmas of leadership without talking about some of the isms, because they're at the core here. And I think that in terms of the reporting processes that we have and the action that FIFA takes, so far it's been pretty good, particularly in countries where we've been able to present evidence. FIFA have taken action. Those countries know that they're under the spotlight. And if nothing else, I think perhaps that's the wider lesson here, that we have to put, whether you're an individual, whether you're a nation, whether you're a team, under the spotlight. People know that certain forms of behavior are not allowed. And actually the expectation is that you will undertake a developmental process to redress the issues that are highlighted. And I think in that sense, I just wanted to pick up on Sue's research, because there's also there's a lot of data out there, and Sue's is really good on nuancing the experiences of women in football in the UK. But we've did some research across Europe in 2014, and there at that point, the UEFA, it was the UEFA associations at that point I think were 53, and we found that there were 4% of female leaders across those 53 associations, at all of the top leagues and in the league associations. So 4% political leaders, executive committees, chairs, vice chairs. I suppose what's even more concerning is the numbers that were in administration. 12% of women were employed as professional executives across the football spectrum in Europe. Now, I think anyone looking at that would say that we are underutilizing the talent of women. And of course, how does that link back to stadiums? The link is there because I think that's where, if we allow some of the environments in stadiums to fester, then in the end it has an impact on the way we see women, the way in which we then don't look at them as leaders, and then people are allowed to get away with the sort of environments I think that we've seen in terms of management, leadership, and so on. But at the same time, I don't think we can just impose strong women leaders at the top and then not to expect to address the issues at the bottom.
Right, and is it also just about sort of numbers? Because we hear a lot, with the data about numbers. How many women do we want to see in certain positions? Yeah. But I mean, we have all here in this auditorium, I'm sure, had female bosses that haven't necessarily promoted. That's not essentially the measure of gender parity, even if it's a measure of equality. Sometimes equal amount of women and men, and it's often this sort of indicator that we use, but it's not necessarily an indicator.
Yes, you say that. I was having this conversation with someone at the DFB, the German FA, on Monday. Men are allowed to fail. I'm allowed to fail in my job, and there are many committees across football. Men have been populating those committees for a long time. Mm-hmm. Men have been in senior positions and been allowed to make mistakes. So why not allow women to make those mistakes as well and learn from them? You don't just want to have an exchange of elites. No, but I think the evidence from people like McKinsey, PwC, the management consultancy industry is that if you add more diversity to leadership, Sue said this, you will get better outcomes. If you're a profit-making company, you will make more profits. If you are a not-for-profit, you will do your work better. So I think that's a reason, if nothing else. And then, you know, the women who are sort of up for the cause will emerge. Those that are just there to do a good job will just do a good job. Sometimes I think we should sort of keep those debates at a different level and maybe wait to the point where we can get some gender parity or some inclination of gender parity.
Sue, I want to pick up on this point about diversity being a source of strength, because we often make this argument that almost on moral basis. You know, you need to have more women, you need to have more ethnic minorities and so on. But there's actually, you know, there is a logic there economically for a stronger organization.
As Piara is saying there, there's a strong body of evidence that says that diverse boards, diverse groups make better decisions. That could be economic, it could be more creative ideas, it could be whatever your outcome is you're trying to achieve. And we focused, when we've done this research over time, obviously the numbers are important, but really also on the interventions, what can we do that will help to improve the situation, because there is a strong logic, and that logic comes from all over the place. You know, I could name you how many studies, papers and so on in all kinds of different fields. But the real, I think, the point of my final slide, the opportunities, is also to think about the interventions, you know, whether it's mentoring, and I know later we'll talk about the role of men and so on, that it's very important that this is not just a tokenist thing. Nobody wants to say we need to have 2 women on that board, or we need to have, you know, whatever the diversity is, that we need to be tokenist about this, but to be looking for good people and to work out how to help them to get through the system into those positions.
Okay, and Sylvie, what does that actually look like? Because when you're dealing with such a big organization like FIFA, it's almost like dealing like a country, like Switzerland. What does it actually look like to implement changes that lead to gender equality and parity?
It looks good. No, but I think it's possible. So there is really a big responsibility of the direction of the CEO. So they have to take this decision. We want to go into this direction, and you can have really short-term changes. Like if you start checking your pay policy, your pay practice too. So it's something you can really decide from one day to another. When you have problems, then it takes a little bit longer in order to settle them. But I think there are all kinds of decisions which are short-term decisions and very effective decisions. And we know with the different reports, McKinsey and so on, that you need this commitment on the level of the direction in order to bring changes. Naturally, you need grassroots also action and so on. You need to work on both levels. But I think you can do something. And we have seen, for instance, in Switzerland, we made a big survey with a lot of companies. 3,000 companies were asked, what means gender equality for you? Most of them say it's very important, but we don't check if we really respect gender pay gaps. So the first goal is to bring all companies, all organizations to make checks whether they really respect the law, and it's about the law. It's not only about economy. So it's good when it brings something more, but I think it's a human right. Equality is a human right. It brings something to humankind. If it's more money, more economic, it's good, but it's also just a pure human right that there is a gender equality in Switzerland, and I think in Switzerland and in the whole world, and I think we have to remind us it's not only about economic.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to cut in quickly. Men do that a lot as well. They just cut across.
Of course.
One of the things that's going to happen is that FIFA is going to begin to give out a lot of money to the associations, and I think through the Football Forward program. And presumably that money will be tied to outcomes such as gender diversity. So the opportunity is now, and the framing of it, I'm sure, is taking place, and that it really is the way to proceed. If you want this money, you can apply for it, and these are the conditions on it. And if you can't meet those conditions, well then, sorry, you can't receive it. That's a very, very, the timing is perfect, really, isn't it? And I'm sure that's what the executive are thinking about right now.
If I may just, so nowadays we ask companies to bring the proof that they respect gender pay gap. And I think we have, so the motto is from words to action, or to bring this way to reality. And I think we have a lot of tools, we have a lot of good practice, and now it's really the duty of the different companies, whether they are non-profit or state or a profit organization, that they really go through their figures and that they bring the proof, the full proof that they respect gender equality.
Right.
And so that there is a dynamic, and I think we can make a difference.
Right, because Sarai, you know, the first sort of facet of this is to recognize there's a problem. It's almost like alcoholism, right? You recognize there's a problem, and then you sort of work to implement policy changes, you know, within on a policy level. And then the third thing is actually implementation. That's when people on the ground start to you know, their lives start to change. What's happening, you know, with the reform process? Where would you say, honestly, your assessment of where you are?
We're in the early stages of implementation. That's my honest assessment. There are moves that are being made within FIFA as an organisation. For example, our General Secretary is leading a process of benchmarking of the salaries within the organisation, which will seek to address the gender pay gap issues within FIFA. But certainly we're in the early stages of the reform. I think it's important to say with the funding that is going to women's football, which will help a lot. I think throughout the structures of football with gender equality, the amount of funding is increasing. We'll talk later, Khalida, I'll let you know the details. But it's also important to note that as part of the reform, there are now mandatory statutes, clauses within our statutes and our governance regulations that speaks to what Piara was saying, that the member associations, the confederations, and FIFA itself as an organisation is now mandated to resource women's football and the development of women's football. But not only that, to increase and pay specific attention to the representation of women in the decision-making bodies. So there are steps being taken, but it's important, I think, for everyone to understand that it's a long-term process. It's not something that can happen overnight. And we are taking the first steps, and I think as an organisation we have to continue to push, not only at FIFA level, but in the confederations, in the member countries. We need people like Khalida who are there on the ground, who are consistently pushing from the bottom up at the same time.
Piara, say FIFA have now their checklist, the member association doesn't tick all the boxes. What do you want FIFA to do?
Well, I think in the end, what we all want to see is this percentage of 4% of political leaders in football to go up. We want it to go up to perhaps a set target, an agreed target. Without setting targets, we won't make progress. We want the executives to go up from 11, 12% to an appropriate level. And I think that's for FIFA to set, to look at the industry, to understand where people are. People in CONMEBOL are in a different place to people at UEFA who are in a different place to people in Asia. So, you know, you have to kind of tailor it. But at the same time, if we're very clear about the levels of representation we want to see, because that is a good indication of gender parity, then FIFA will move towards that.
Khalida, tell us a bit more about your experiences, and I'm really curious to see your feeling of access to FIFA and whether you felt supported in your struggles at home.
Well, as I mentioned before, that the support that FIFA really we receive from FIFA, for example, some of the courses for women's, like administration courses, FIFA and AFC and the fund and stuff like that, that really help us to empower women through football in our country. But one thing that I want to mention here is that it's important that when you give fund, ask for result, don't throw the money. Because in that way we can somehow control and help, because to be honest, it's always men leading it. So in order to make sure that the money is went in the right way, you have to ask for result. Doesn't matter how much you give, ask for result. And the same that it would be great if women will be heard, like the women committees in each countries to be heard, because our messages are coming through the head of the association, but what enough there is meetings or kind of conferences for women's directly from women's from the each association who are the leader of women's football committees, that they tell what's going on. So this is the thing that it needs to be addressed, and needs we need FIFA because they are the main house, and that we want them to support women.
I'm going to give everyone a chance now to think about their very intelligent questions that they're going to pose to the panelists. I'll insert one more thought into this discussion, and then I'll turn to all of you. But it's something that you raised, and I was thinking about it while you were speaking, Khalida, that the problem is also one of how the game is viewed. And one of the major issues that you faced was this sort of stereotyping of football as a man's game, and that has many cultural, domestic cultural reasons, nothing written down in religion, but for some reason it's also got tied up with religious conservatism as well. But I'm wondering what you think, and I'll turn to others about what they think as well, what FIFA's role is in changing that kind of stereotype at a national level.
I think if FIFA and also the Football Association give value to women's football, and they don't just say, it's women's football. Give value means that talk about it. Help women. Arrange the different events where it's FIFA or the organizations like FIFA support women and make people to see. It's like, it needs help, support from a big hand. And that's FIFA, football associations that can help, because also media. Talk about it. Take it serious.
Yeah. I mean, you have the FIFA president in front of you. One thing that you have to say to him, one sort of practical thing that you would like to see happen, for example, in Afghanistan, in terms of a conference or whatever it is to sort of give a boost to the women's game. What's one example that you can think of right now that he could implement? Okay. You can think. It's a big question. You can think about it if you want. Well, do you want to think about it? I'm going to make everyone have a wish list for you. No. What about other people in the audience? And I know that I'll bring you guys back in a moment. But questions from the audience. We have one right there. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm from Mexico, and in our country, we're just going to start like a female professional league for women, but I have always wondered, because a lot of players I know, and they're going to be, well, they are already selected to be part of the team, but they are not going to be paid, because, well, of course, they are just going to start, but for the professional clubs in Mexico, soccer is not a business, so they don't have money for women. Because for men, like, there's a business for them, so they can earn money to pay men, but for women, it's not the same. So I know it's starting, and maybe in the future, all those women will be paid, but I don't know how it's going to be, like how to empower people to go and watch the female soccer. So this is not just like, this project, it's not just going to start and then finish, because many people think it won't be successful because it's not going to be a business. So I really want it to be successful, but I don't know how to help society because I'm a coach and I'm like helping girls to grow the game and everything, but I just want like to know how can we make society and how can we make media in our countries to go and empower women so can, like I think if media help us, they can make people go and enjoy the games and make
it's about raising interest in the women's game.
Yeah, because
and making it a successful business model as well. Who wants to take that on? Sarai.
Oh, no, welcome from Mexico. Yeah, I think certainly at a FIFA level there is a lot that we can do to help you. One of the biggest parts of my job is to put together a commercial strategy for women's football that is independent from the men's game. And part of that is the marketing and the promotion of the game. And we can also, another task that we're looking at the moment is how can we create or evolve or develop new competitions at the FIFA level in women's football. Because I think it's a very important point. What we do at FIFA level in terms of tournaments and competitions will really drive development and promotion of the sport down throughout the structures of football. But I think media, televisation, and one thing I think is very important for women's football is that we don't need to copy the model of the men's game. We can do something new, we can be innovative, we can do something very dynamic, and we shouldn't try to copy exactly what they're doing. An example, I think from the Women's World Cup in Canada, for example, in terms of media access to players, I mean, we saw images of players on the bus on the way to the stadium or after their matches. Now, in a Men's World Cup, you try and get media onto a player's bus, there's no way that that would be allowed. So this type of initiative, it gives access to the players, it makes it more popular, and we have to use also the power of social media. Yeah.
I think actually, I think that's a really, really critical point, and you can see this in the US with the way they market women's sports. It's an entity on its own. It's not an add-on, right? And I think the way in which, in the end, what drives media coverage is stories, narrative. And so we know, for example, Clarence Seedorf's narrative. We know how he grew up, his parentage, and how he got into football. We also need to present Khalida's. Yeah. We need to present Nadim's, so that people understand them as profiles, as individuals, with a strong narrative, with a strong personality. And I think that always has to be said. You're right. And I think there's quite a lot of, obviously there's a lot of bright marketeers out there who are already looking at this stuff. So I think in that sense, this is about win-win and the commercial revenues that will come, that will then make the political case and economic case back home to people who perhaps don't get it.
Another question? There? Yes, you, blue top. We'll go there and then, thanks.
So market value is often used as a great excuse to talk about equal pay or the lack of equal pay. And the commercial rights and commercial strategy is very important. But my question actually has to do with more of the extension of equal rights to female players and the protection of female players. So what steps are being taken by the FIFA to ensure these equal rights are extended to female players across the world, to ensure that they can actually be able to create a sustainable market where they can actually create their own market value and see the game grow? So I'm sorry, Sarai, it's a direct question for you again.
Well, the professionalisation of the women's game, I think, is very important, especially within Europe at the moment and North America, where we see, we've seen recently with the movement of players, especially from America into Europe, there are some big steps that we need to take in order to professionalise that process. So I know, for example, for the men, they are regulated by some very concrete regulations as to player status and the transfer of players. Something that we need to do as FIFA and as a division for women's football is to create those same regulatory framework around the movement of women. And that will, I think, go a long way towards making sure that there are equal rights for women's players as well. It's a big task for our team. I can see our team members around there. Yes, it's certainly a big task on the to-do list. I think what's difficult for us is that we're dealing with such a diverse range of players. There are countries in the world where women have to fight to even get on the field and play. And then on the other side of the world, we have women who are playing professionally for a living and earning their money from it. So I think the key for us is how do we find a strategy and how do we develop programs and support that can cover that wide, diverse range of women players. But there are steps being taken, and certainly we cannot do it alone. And we will talk to organisations like ECA, for example, the European Clubs Association. I had a very interesting meeting with them last week to talk about ways in which we can support the professional women's players that are coming through.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Mary. I just started the Football Equals Foundation. Hi, Sarai. Good to see you on the seat. And I have raised the Football Equals Foundation because I believe diversity is a strength, as all of us. But I think it's strange that in the professional world, we separated boys and girls directly at a young age. So it's difficult to say in the top, we need quota. And then when they're 9, 10, 11-year-old professional boys, we separate them from the girls. The only thing I want to say is when I look at Khalida, I think we are missing something besides women's soccer that is much bigger. Khalida is one of the inspiring leaders of the future. I think she is more than a soccer player. And I think we not have women's soccer because we want to empower women. We also have men that are now having no chance to listen to Khalida. I think we shouldn't do empower women because we make it better for the whole generation. And if you are looking at the president of the FIFA and you have your chance to ask him how he can help you, I will help you with this one. I think if I look at her, and I know you have 20 teammates in your Afghanian women team that face the same issues and challenges like you, I think if you look at bottom up, I think you need to find a way to support women also from the bottom up, that are not the researchers, that are not the people that are really in the top of politics. Of course we need them, of course we need the UN, but I think you need women like Khalida from the bottom. Give them a portion of the budget instead of only the highest ranking. Give her a budget, and I will promise you, she will empower girls. She will empower boys. She will do what gender equality should be. Not leading women only, but inspire generations. She can do that. I think, Mr. Infantino, I will stand up for her. If you can make a small budget for her, she will make changes.
Thank you. Next question. There's a gentleman there. We'll just take a man for gender equality purposes.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I agree with what you just said. I think it's quite important to start from the bottom, because when we are kids, we will play with anyone, no matter where they are from or no matter what gender they are. So I think, yes, it's important to support professional players or professional leagues and women that they're already, grown-ups, and they need the support. But also, if we start from the bottom and we change the mentality of the kids, that they should be acceptive and they should, they should play with the girls or with the boys. It's something very important. So if we start from the grassroots and developing that mentality and support that and educate kids when they will be 25, 30 years old and they start making decisions, they will make the correct decisions. And I would like also that, you are more experienced than I am, and so I would like also your opinion in that, if I can ask.
Sure. So, I mean, it's about education and starting young.
So, I mean, obviously this is going to be very different depending on where around the world you are. And obviously there's a very good point being made about mixed teams and so on. I know that I was involved in some work in the UK that was about participation. And I also know that there were ages and stages at which women tended to drop out in girls tended to drop out in fairly large numbers in playing. And that it was actually younger for women. It was about age 10, 11. If you didn't have women hooked in active sport by that age, then they tended to drop out around the stage where they went to senior school. And for boys, it was somewhat later. It was about 14, 15. And some of the data I was looking at didn't actually capture the 11-year-old age group. And you go, well, that's crazy, because that's obviously a key part. So I think my answer to it is about education. It is about understanding what are the key drivers and the inhibitors in various different places. But then, of course, I would say this, it's also about understanding. So when we're talking about how you grow the leagues in Mexico, or whether we're talking about what you do best to educate women in that early stage, we have to understand the different situations before we can work out what works in each of those markets. Right. And not everybody necessarily has the skills, even if you give them the money, to be able to go and do that without some interventions or support. So I think the support in understanding specific markets and specific issues is key to this.
Mm-hmm. Next question. Go ahead.
Hi.
Oh, okay, sorry.
We've spoken about gender equality within football. How important does the panel think intersectionality within that growth is, and most specifically ethnic diversity? And what are your organisations doing to make sure that the women that are getting more involved in the game are diverse women?
Right. It's a very important question. I know we'll probably lob it back to you, Sarai, in a moment, but maybe, Piara, do you want to take a shot at it?
I think it's very important. It's critical, in fact. As I said before, I don't think you can talk about sexism, for example, without talking about homophobia. You can't talk about the way in which women are seen in sport without talking about masculinity. And it's the same thing, I think, in terms of linking together, gender discrimination with race discrimination. And the solutions, in many ways, are tied together. It's a set of jigsaws that you bring together for the perfect solution. Mm-hmm. And I'm absolutely sure one of the things you see where you, for example, have more diverse companies, they're also then more racially diverse. It's not a guarantee, you have to work hard on that, but generally there's more of a tendency. And we know that entities that are more racially diverse and also then more diverse in terms of gender are really outperforming their peers, whether, as I said before, whether they're for-profit or not-for-profit. I think that was a clear indication of this seminal McKinsey work that was published in 2015.
Right.
Yeah, I think for me it's important to note that diversity does not mean just having more women. It also includes, a diverse representation of race, of culture, religious backgrounds, sexual orientation. Diversity is a lot of things. And I think the second thing I'd like to say is diversity is one thing, but what's important is also to be inclusive. So if you're going to put more women in or more people of a specific race or culture, it's one thing to have them sitting there at the desk or on the field. It's another thing to make sure that they feel that they can be their true, authentic selves and make them feel comfortable that within their unique personality, they can truly be themselves and they don't have to feel that they're oppressed in any way. And so diversity, I think, is very important, but it's also about creating an environment where the people that come from those diverse backgrounds can feel comfortable in their own skin. Yeah.
And I think actually just, if you take Khalida's example, if we can, for example, football can be a means of empowerment for the step up. And I think that's the way we have to frame it, because in the end, most players who kick a ball don't become professional. They probably don't even go to register with an FA, they just play for fun. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so we have to for me, certainly that's where I'm coming from, you look at the social impact and you see how you can help to take people out of poverty, how you can bring together cohesion in a society. Those are the things I think in the end that we can really do well.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a whole panel on exactly that subject later, so yeah. Go ahead.
Hello. My name is Anna from the International Olympic Committee. And thank you very much for all the powerful messages. It's wonderful to hear that, and I'm very happy to be in the House of Football. And I know football is the main topic today, but for me, I would like to just ask a question to the Swiss Federal Office, Mrs. Durrer, Madame Durrer. I'm just wondering if there are any other factors that Switzerland is actually looking at in terms of gender equality and parity. I know the equal pay is probably one of the most significant ones, and I know you are personally attacking the violence, domestic violence as well. But I was just wondering, what about other factors that determine the equality on the national level, like maternity leave, senior positions in the companies, promotion systems, and similar welfare for the single mothers, welfare for women in general? I'm just curious about that, since we're all residents. Most of us are residents of Switzerland here.
So gender pay equity is a main issue for the Swiss government nowadays. We want really to make the difference, so we are working hard on it. But naturally, you have other issues like childcare facilities, like flexibility in the work time arrangement in companies, like the fiscal system we have in Switzerland, but also in other countries which discourage women to work more, and so on. So you have a lot of issues, and we have to tackle all these issues. But as what the pay discrimination concern, there you have one main actor, in the company and in the direction of companies. That's why we are pushing hard on this. But naturally, we are working on other issues as well, and we shouldn't forget them.
Thanks. We can take one last question. Oh, it's so hard to decide. Go ahead, but I promise you, you'll be the first in the next panel to ask.
Thank you. I have a compliment, a question, and a comment to frame my question. And my question is for everyone on the panel, including the moderator. The compliment is for Hani, your team, and the president of FIFA for assembling this team, which is exemplifying the value of diversity as you are all working in diverse fields professionally. And I think this is one of the best examples, if we are all to take your words seriously and act upon them, of collaborative leadership that I have seen in a long time. So you're amazing. I heard a few of you, my question is for each of you to make a comment about how the actual sport of football can teach us all about feedback, because I heard it as a theme in everything that you said. I see a cycle with development work and change agents and policymakers, and then influential organizations that have a lot of money, like FIFA, working in a cycle. You are all experts, but I think that the people who are the best in the world at giving and receiving feedback in an immediate way are athletes and coaches. So how can we learn from the sport itself in all of these realms where we're actually working to change the world in terms of feedback? Thank you.
It's an interesting question. Who wants to sort of sum it up in a sentence? Oh, anyone? Piara, you start.
I think we...
I was going to make...
Well, in the little field which I'm tackling today. So I think if, for instance, the FIFA and all national organizations ask from their contractors that they respect gender pay, that they pay equity, you are going to have a lot of influence. And you are going to change the social situation of a lot of women, of a lot of families. So I think there you are going to have this social impact you would like to have. Because if you build stadium, if you ask for services and so on, and if you are that these companies really respect and make the proof that they respect gender pay equality, you are going to have this kind of influence.
So I was going to say also, we were all seeing this from our own perspectives, but from my perspective, what I am is an educator. And I work in all kinds of different things, from coach-manager education to people trying to get into football to various parts of the world. And in a lot of those, we're working with people where they tell us what their learning needs are, and we have to act on that, but then they give us feedback about what else they need to know. So that, to me, there is a clear loop that happens in our world in terms of the feedback and how we can use the learning. So I didn't know that much about football managers or their challenges when I started doing this. I knew a bit, but I know a lot more 15 years on. So it is a continual loop in which we learn from the people who go through programs and feed that back in terms of what the next challenges are.
Sarai, any final thoughts?
Yeah. So for me personally, I know very well what my limitations are. And I also think that we, FIFA, as an organisation, understand our limitations as well. And it's important that what we do as the governing body for football is that we bring people in and we discuss. And where we aren't expertise, we seek advice. And we look at best practice from other organisations. And we need to open ourselves up to receive feedback as we are today. And I think it's very important, especially in the space of gender equality and diversity. This is not our area of expertise. And it's one of the reasons why we're here today. It's to listen and to understand and to take notes and to see what we can do as an organisation to make a real concrete impact in that area. And through football, we have the power to do that.
Thanks. Piara?
I think, in essence, we're at a place here in FIFA that has changed itself drastically in the last year, which I think is the beginning of more changes to come. We've gone from a visible presence in terms of diversity, which was not very high, to one that's very high, with the General Secretary, with the executive team, with a change in language that is being expressed publicly. So the changes seem to be very forthright, very, very obvious to see. I guess the challenge for FIFA and for all of us, actually, is how that then runs through the 211 associations, how we can get the messages that are being given here down to the guys that are playing football, or aspiring to play football in Afghanistan and everywhere else where people need to hear those messages. And then see how we can empower each other, I think. That's a key thing for me.
Khalida, I'm giving you the last final word.
Regarding the question that you asked, I want to use as an example. We are working as 4 women who has a football background. They are from Mexico national team, from United States national team, women, that we listen to women inside Afghanistan and they have the problems. And then we talk together and we try to empower each other. And we want to kind of bring the message through media that how women can help each other. It doesn't matter, despite from the background, from where they are, how we can help each other. And we want to be, like this group, want to be as an example for the rest of the women, because we need also women to empower each other and help each other to send their message or to help each other. So that's what we are doing. And the last thing, I'm sorry, I'll talk a lot. The last thing I want to say to you, Mr. President, that
Let's give her some encouragement.
Whenever you take any decision, think like a father. Think like a father, because I know your position is very difficult and very challenging position. But if you give your son a chocolate, think about your daughter too. In that way, you make make equality. Yes, that way you make equality as a reality. Think about it, because your decision changed the life and destroys the lives. Thank you.
It's a great note to end off on. We're going to take a quick break, but please come back because we have a really important panel that comes next. But wait, before we go for your break and your coffee, there is a very quick video. But I was just going to say as well, the next panel is about stereotypes and how men also have a role in changing those stereotypes.